Hey, it's Ruby. Before I was the host of Encore, I was a listener of Encore. And so I thought it'd be fun to share a special megasode of my favorite episodes from seasons 1 to 6 from some of the greatest songs of all time. I feel like megasode needs more emphasis. It's a megasode. This week, we've got the stories of Carly Rae Jepsen's Call Me Maybe, Outkast's Hey Ya, LEN, Steal My Sunshine, and Robyn's Dancing on My Own. So enjoy, and Encore Season 7 will be back on August 7th. Talk to you soon.
This is Encore. Cool. The stories behind the songs.
Thank you.
Here's iHeartRadio's Myles Galloway.
I feel like this episode needs to come with some kind of warning that this song is going to be stuck in your head for the rest of the week. I'm Myles Galloway, and this is the story of Carly Rae Jepsen's Call Me Maybe. Now, what would you say is the catchiest song of all time? You know that one earworm that you hear once and then for the rest of the day it plays over and over in your head? Well, according to researchers at St Andrews University in Scotland, a song needs to have 5 things to make it an earworm: surprise, predictability, rhythmic repetition, melodic potency, and most importantly, the listener must be receptive to the creation on a basic level. In their study, they determined the catchiest song of all time is Queen's We Will Rock You, which alone can be identified by its rhythm. I'm sure you've attended some sporting event and stomped or clapped that song without even singing a note. It's catchy, there's no denying it, and these people are actual scientists, sure. But have they ever heard a song by the name of Call Me Maybe by Carly Rae Jepsen? Because that wins my vote. And I'm not alone. Justin Bieber agrees with me. He once tweeted, "Call Me Maybe by Carly Rae Jepsen is possibly the catchiest song I've ever heard, LOL. How can anyone argue with the Biebs?" Now, I know debating science is a foolish thing to do, but I think this time science got it wrong. Because I'm telling you, there's no song catchier than Call Me Maybe. The artist behind the song, Carly Rae Jepsen, was born on November 21st, 1985 in Mission, British Columbia, about an hour east of Vancouver. She was the middle child of 3 to teachers Alexandra and Larry Jepsen, who divorced when Carly was young. Both parents remarried, however, and Carly and her siblings, older brother Colin and young sister Katie, were raised in 2 households by 4 teachers. From an early age, Carly took to music, learning the songs of James Taylor, Leonard Cohen, Joni Mitchell, and Cat Stevens. She would tell Much Music's Jessie Giddings,
"But my father used to play guitar for me before bed, and that's kind of how I really got into the idea of songwriting, because I would listen to the lyrics and kind of just sit there and think that was the coolest feeling, to be transported just through a song."
But it was hearing the voice of Sinead O'Connor singing Nothing Compares to You that inspired Carly to dream of becoming a pop star. She would tell BuzzFeed, "That was the first time I'd come close to wanting to be a pop vocalist. I remember listening to those melodies and learning all of the different inflections in her voice on all of her songs after that." Performing in front of her family became a regular way to prepare for her future in entertainment. Her mum would tell the Vancouver Sun she would take a song and interpret it into her own unique way. She'd come out and we'd have to sit on the couch and be ready. She'd have the costumes and do a whole repertoire of song and dance and movement and action. And then one day, Carly's father told her to go share her talent with the world. She made her public debut performing at a talent show in Hatzick Lake at the age of 7, singing Eternal Flame by the Bangles and the title track to Beauty and the Beast. Carly took home the $400 prize. That moment set her on a course of singing whenever she could. She joined show choirs and took lessons in piano and vocal jazz. At the age of 9, she began writing songs, the first of which was a protest song she called They're Cutting Down the Big Trees. Around the same time, she attended a Melissa Etheridge concert that convinced her she was destined to become a professional musician. In an interview with Elle, Carly recalled just how important that moment was for her. She wore a leather jacket and just ripped from one side of the stage to the other. I remember being so angry that the crowd was singing so loudly that I couldn't hear her sing. I wanted everyone to quiet down, but I also just remember thinking, wow, what must that feel like with everyone singing all the words to your song so loudly you can't hear yourself anymore? I was just thrilled by the whole thing. Carly attended high school at Heritage Park Secondary School, where she was able to pursue her love for musical theatre. She would tell the Toronto Star, I grew up in Mission, BC, and if you were a kid there, musical theatre was the only real outlet you had. I remember the stuff my parents played on the stereo, like My Fair Lady, and I'd sing along and want to be just like that. My parents knew my number one dream was to be on the musical theatre stage, and they supported me every way they could. It was through musical theatre that Carly saw her chance to command a stage. She scored lead roles as Dorothy in The Wiz, Sandy in Grease, and Annie in Annie, which was all part of her plan to excel at her studies. In an interview with Loud and Quiet, she recalled, "I had 4 parents who were all teachers or principals of school, so I was trying really hard to be good at school. I wanted to be the star of the musicals and get straight A's. I was an annoying perfectionist goody-goody, and I did get to be the star in the musicals. That was my thing. Any opportunity to perform I was attracted to. My parents indulged me in all of it." Although Carly was killing it in musical theatre, she really wanted to be a proper singer-songwriter like the artists she admired. So at the age of 16, she began writing songs and focusing on what it would take to make a career out of it. Carly applied to the Canadian College of Performing Arts in Victoria, BC, where she could work on all of the necessary skills. The Intense Academy was styled after the one featured in Fame, the popular film and TV series, and it gave Carly the first taste of independence living away from home. She would tell the Times columnist, "It was made for me, it felt like. When I read the application and went to the audition process and heard them talk about singing, acting, and dancing, I went for it." At college, Carly learned how to tap dance, stage fight, act, and sing, even making trips to New York City to catch Broadway shows and rub elbows with former students now starring on stage. It was there that she also learned to write actual songs, which turned out to be what she was most interested in. Carly left the program after a year and moved to Vancouver in hopes of following her dream to become a musician and songwriter, but it took some convincing to sell the idea to her parents, who were pushing for her to go to a teacher's college. They wanted her to earn a degree so she could work as a substitute teacher while doing music on the side. Jepsen, however, didn't see that as a road she wanted to travel. Instead, she made a deal with them. She would take a few years off and try and make music work as a career, and if it didn't work out, she would give it up for a more practical line of work. So Jepsen gave it all she had to make it as a musician. She worked at coffee shops, a patisserie, restaurants and bars while performing at open mic nights and busking on the streets of Vancouver. She slept on a pull-out couch in her $400 a month apartment, living, in her words, on the edge of poverty. She had a band that would perform with her and play whatever shows they could get. Sometimes she'd have to pay them in baked goods like lasagna and banana bread. And then in 2004, at the age of 19, she scrounged up enough money to self-release a CD featuring 3 songs, including Dear You, the first professional song she had written. Carly used the CD as a demo, handing out to any and everyone she could. She was paying her dues as a struggling musician, but an opportunity was waiting for her just around the corner. At the insistence of her high school drama teacher, Carly auditioned for the 5th season of Canadian Idol, Canada's spin-off version of American Idol and the UK's Pop Idol. For her audition, Carly actually broke the rules and chose to sing her own original song called Sweet Talker. Here she is meeting the judges.
I wanted to start with a song that I wrote, so I brought my guitar. I'm not in any way proclaiming that I am a guitar player, but I wanted to play this song.
You're 21, huh?
21, yeah.
Going on 14.
Carly made a strong first impression on the judges, with one even offering her a record deal on the spot after just a minute of performing.
Keep going with this one, or do you want to hear something?
I'm going to tell Carly exactly what I think.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I think you're an absolute, bona fide, total star.
I hope everybody else votes you not through, and I'd like to sign you to a management and record deal and have you come to Toronto and work with me instead.
You look good, you have personality, you have a young vibe about you, so I would say yes.
Yeah, I'm an absolute yes. No question about it. Come get the ticket.
Damn.
Next stop.
Don't take it!
Next stop, Toronto.
Thank you so much.
Don't take the ticket. Come with me. Come
to
with
the
me.
dark side.
You got a gig, right?
And I skipped sound check for this.
Hey, of course you did.
Years later, Carly recalled the audition experience in an interview with Guy Raz on the Great Creators podcast.
Let's talk about Canadian Idol. This is 2007. What do you remember about that experience?
I think I had been in the city for a hot minute now. And I don't want to say it like chewed me up and spit me up, but there was definitely this feeling of like, okay, where is this going? Like, what's the next plan here? Because I really did want to build the thing, but I wasn't sure what the next step was. But by the time I got to that audition, I remember thinking, I'm only going to be on TV this one time. I might as well make it count. So the rule was you weren't supposed to write or sing your own song, but I brought a guitar and I was like, I thought if I'm going to be there, I'm going to be there authentically. So it felt rebellious and it felt like I'll be in and I'll be out and it'll be done. So the reaction and their feedback of like allowing me through, I remember kind of feeling a little like, wow, that's not what I expected to happen. And I can remember calling my father or calling my family and being like, I'm still here. Isn't that weird?
Singing the songs of Feist, Annie Lennox, Ray Charles, Queen, Melissa Etheridge, Dido, and Natalie Imbruglia, Carly made it all the way to the top 3, losing out to a singer named Brian Mello. But the experience was a launching pad for her. She continued to perform her music as well as old jazz standards in a group called Blue Morris 6. And her hometown was so supportive that Mayor James Atebe declared August 25th Carly Rae Jepsen Day in Mission. Carly performed for the town and signed autographs. During an interview with Much Music's Tim Deegan, Carly said she felt not taking home the title of Canadian Idol was a bit of a blessing in hindsight.
You know, I don't really have any regrets with Idol. I thought it was like a really intense sort of summer campish thing. And it was crazy, but it was a crazy cool thing too. And no, it got me where I am, and I don't look back on that. I feel quite happy. Yeah, I think there's different sort of success for different people, and I think that me as an idol might not have been the best fit, and me as this gets a bit more time to experiment with that and really decide what it is I want to be. So it's been good for me, but I think that for each and every person, they get to decide that on their own, you know? Yeah.
Sometimes wonder if it's sometimes better to not win?
I mean, for me it was. I don't think I saw that like at the time maybe, but I'm thinking like, well, I kind of did. I saw both sides of it. I thought, anywhere after 5 would be great, but I was so blown away by getting as far as I did that really it was sort of just everything was bonus, and I felt like whatever happened was sort of meant to happen. And looking a year or so later, how long has it been? Jeez.
Despite the boost in her profile from appearing on millions of TVs each week during Canadian Idol, Carly was still hustling to make ends meet in Vancouver. But she also met a songwriter/producer by the name of Ryan Stewart, and the two of them began working on her debut album, along with some help from Josh Ramsey of Mariana's Trench, who chipped in to help perform, engineer, and produce, as well as co-write a duet with Carly called Sour Candy. The album Tug of War was released independently on September 30th, 2008, and despite its modest returns, the album began to put Carly on the map, allowing her to tour across Canada, get radio airplay, and make some TV appearances. After releasing Tug of War, Carly found a manager in Jonathan Simkin, a Vancouver-based lawyer who had founded the record label 604 Records with Nickelback frontman Chad Kroeger in the early 2000s. At first, Simkin wasn't interested, thinking Carly was just a standard puppet singing other people's songs. But after meeting with her, he was impressed with her songs and what he called an intangible X factor. He signed her to 604 and later on re-released Tug of War with a distribution deal through Universal. Tug of War would earn Carly his first ever Juno nominations for Breakthrough Artist of the Year and Songwriter of the Year. However, that didn't mean she could give up her day job. In fact, years later, Carly posted a memory on Instagram about a humbling moment when she was waitressing. She wrote, "I can remember waitressing one day not too long before things poked up and hearing one of the tables outside talk about my music. The table was seated with about 12 people who'd all returned from a camping trip in Canada and had sung along to the radio the whole time. I think it was an earlier song that only played in Canada called Tug of War that was on repeat a lot back then, and they were not exactly fans. A direct quote I overheard was something like, 'This girl Carly Rae Jepsen was on repeat over and over our whole trip, and we are so sick of it.' Some of them sang the song in a mocking voice, oblivious to the fact that I was serving them food. So I poured the wine, engaged shyly behind my big floppy bangs, and hoped and prayed to not be recognized as their waitress. But then something warm in my belly began to make me feel giddy, because This was the first time I had heard someone else know my name or my music. I skipped behind the bar and excitedly explained to my manager that these people outside know me. Okay, they don't know me per se, but they know my music. And they hate it, but they know it, and I'm kind of weirdly proud of that. That night before they left, I printed off their bill and signed my name confidently in bold letters on the back of the receipt. I said, "Thanks for letting me take care of you tonight. Also, I signed the back of your receipt since I hear you're all such big fans." Their jaws dropped. We had a laugh, and I may have received a slightly bigger tip than usual. Despite a few unsatisfied customers, Carly wasn't far from her big break. Carly began writing music with her friend Tavish Crow, a fellow Vancouverite who would join her touring band on guitar. They had a folk song they were working on at her uncle's house called Call Me Maybe that had some promise. It began with the bridge, and then a melody, and then a chorus. But they were far from finished, so they called in Josh Ramsey, who had experienced a lot of success in Canada with his band Mariana's Trench. Ramsey came in and helped transform it from a folk song into a sparkling pop song, elevated layers of strings that helped give the song its hook. All of a sudden, Carly was changing up the kind of music she'd been making, basically her whole life. Gone was Carly the folk singer. Now she was becoming Carly the pop star in the making. Ramsey explained why he felt that was a necessary transition in an interview with SoCan.
The reason why I thought that would be a cool idea for Carly was because it was more of a pop song than what Carly had done on her previous record, but her previous record was so acoustic based that I thought it would still be like a tie through to her acoustic roots as opposed to just being like covered in jumping right to all synths.
The three of them wrote, recorded, and produced the song in the span of only 4 or 5 days, finishing it just before Christmas 2010. Carly would admit to Rolling Stone that the song was about a specific guy who she was still dating at the time of the song's release. She said, "It was just the idea that I felt that something was really missing. And when he came into my life, he was the person I was missing." In making this genre jump from folk to pop, Carly didn't stop at this one song. She decided to completely pivot for her entire album. She told Much More Music's Matt Wells about the pop idols that helped her make such a big change.
Yeah, there were multiple artists, and I still really love listening to folk music, and I love singing it. I still write a lot of folk songs, but I was listening to Robyn and LaRue and Dragonette and some old school Madonna, and I just was like, I want to make this kind of music, and I thought it was fun to kind of incorporate a little bit of Joni Mitchell and kind of anger her up, dance her up a bit, and also with the songs that I was writing, it was happening, and at one point I kind of threw my arms up in the air and said, you know what, if this is what I want to do, I'm going to stop fighting it and just going to go for it.
Carly was now ready to show off this new side of her. Call Me Maybe was released on September 20th, 2011, and despite receiving some radio airplay in Canada, the song was not exactly a hit. Then the video dropped a few months later, featuring Carly crushing on and dreaming about the hot guy mowing the lawn next door. Here is Carly talking about the making of the video.
So Ben Knechtel, the director, has this mean thing where he likes to shoot these really summery videos when it's freezing cold outside. It was November. Canada's already cold, and then tack November onto that. I like the video for the fact that it doesn't take itself too seriously. I was a little bit nervous of trying to be sexy because that always fails miserably, so I like the idea of just making a total fool of myself. And it was really fun to make. I hurt myself a couple times falling off the car. I had a nice burgundy bruise for a good week afterwards, but hey, no harm, no foul. Oh, I guess there was some harm.
The video really helped the song pick up some steam, but thanks to an endorsement from one of the biggest stars in the world, it was about to become the biggest song in the world. At precisely 3:09 p.m. on December 30th, 2011, Carly Rae Jepsen's life changed forever. It was at that time that Justin Bieber, a fellow Canadian and arguably the biggest pop star on earth at the time, tweeted this: "Call Me Maybe by Carly Rae Jepsen is possibly the catchiest song I've ever heard, LOL." Then just a few days later, Justin's just as famous girlfriend at the time, Selena Gomez, tweeted a link of a photo of Justin on Instagram with the caption, "This smile is because of Carly Rae Jepsen. We have not stopped listening to your song, girl." Carly explained the significance of the tweet to Much More Music's Matt Wells.
Well, I think in Canada, the day before he tweeted about it, we were number 11 on iTunes, and the day that he tweeted about it was number 1. So it was a big a big change that happened there. But yeah, I was starting getting tweets from people in Germany, people in Australia, countries that I had never visited before. And
now celebrities endorse favourite songs all the time, but these social posts by Justin Bieber and Selena Gomez were life-altering moments that seemed to send Call Me Maybe into orbit. At the very least, they were enough to convince Justin and his manager that Carly Rae Jepsen was an artist that needed to be heard. And they were the ones that wanted to make that happen. Carly had long been visiting Much Music to say hi, perform and do interviews, but on February 15th, 2012, she was invited into the studio for a very big announcement.
What did you feel after seeing both of these tweets go out?
Shock, I think. I think I still haven't totally registered the fact that they're being so supportive and lovely, and ultimately I think I'm just really flattered. Yeah.
It must be a huge to get acknowledged from a couple of big stars like that. And another or one of the big fans of yours wanted to send in a video to be a part of the special moments with you today and a part of the announcement. So let's take a look at this video right here.
What's up, guys? This is Justin. I wanted to make a special announcement. I have teamed up with Scooter and Jimmy Iovine. When I was actually in Canada, I heard a song on the radio called Call Me Maybe, and I immediately fell in love with the song. I thought it was a smash. And then I started, doing my research and found out who it was. Her name is Carly Rae Jepsen, and I just wanted to tell everybody that we signed her. So everyone go check her out. Song called Call Me Maybe, and she's gonna blow up, so see you soon.
Are you okay? That's huge. Obviously the secret is out. That was the big secret that you have been hiding from us. How do you feel? Like
I'm afraid to talk. I feel I love you too. I feel shocked and speechless and very grateful. It's a really cool adventure we're about to go on, and I couldn't be more excited.
Yep, that was Justin Bieber announcing to the world that his manager, Scooter Braun, had signed Carly Rae Jepsen to his Schoolboy Records label, as well as become her new manager. Minutes later, Scooter called into Much Music to tell Carly and VJ Jesse Giddings why he was so eager to sign her.
So what was it about Carly here that just made you say we have to sign her?
Well, it was Justin was there for his Christmas special, and he heard the song. He was home for Christmas break, and he called me and he goes, "There's this song. It's the best pop song out there. It's amazing, and you got to hear it. You got to go watch the video." And I went and watched, and I said, "You know what, Justin, you're absolutely right." And he said, "We got to get involved with her somehow, and you got to watch. She's the real deal. She can perform live. She can do it all." And the last time I worked with a Canadian, it worked out really, really well. I'm really confident with Canada representing that this is going to go really well for Carly, and I can't tell you how excited Justin is.
Hey, no, let me.
Hold on. Who's that?
Scooter, let me speak for myself. It's Justin. What's up, guys? Canada, how you feeling? And Carly, what's going on?
Hi, Justin.
How are you?
I'm very good. Oh my gosh, I've been wanting to say thank you for a while, so thank you.
Of course. I'm excited for you to be able to come out to LA and be able to work on your album, and your EP came out in Canada, so everybody go get that.
I'm going to chime in. I'm going to chime in and just tell them what you said to me, and then let you just elaborate. What Justin said, I think it's really important for all you Canadians to know. He said, "I think this is BS that this song is #1 in Canada and isn't #1 around the world, because if one Canadian artist is good enough to be #1 there, it's good enough to be #1 around the world," and that's what he wanted to get involved in.
Exactly.
Man, did you hear Justin just totally hijack that call? But the Biebs wasn't done there. 2 days later, he and Selena posted a video of them and some friends, including High School Musical's Ashley Tisdale, lip-syncing to Call Me Maybe. That clip took about 2 seconds to break the internet and go viral, inspiring thousands of copycat lip-sync videos. It was a thing. YouTube became flooded with the videos, from Katy Perry and friends at Coachella to the US Olympic swimming team to the cast of The Big Bang Theory, which did a flash mob to it in front of a live studio audience during the taping of an episode. The song became a pop cultural phenomenon in what felt like overnight. The funny thing about Call Me Maybe, though, is that it wasn't even supposed to be the first song released from Carly's second album, Kiss. In an interview with Billboard, Carly's then manager Jonathan Simkin said it wasn't even slated to be her first single. That was me having to fight for that one. The Universal Radio team, that wasn't their first choice. It wasn't anybody's first choice except me. I just knew there was something about that song. It's a good thing they did release it, because the other song the label was focusing on, Curiosity, barely registered on the charts when it was released a few months later. But it didn't really matter, because Call Me Maybe was everywhere from the entirety of 2012. The song topped the Billboard Hot 100 in June and sat there for 9 consecutive weeks. It was the first song by a Canadian female artist on the Billboard Hot 100 chart since 2007, when Avril Lavigne reached number 1 with Girlfriend. Hey, that song was also featured in an episode of Encore. In addition to that, Call Me Maybe was the most purchased song on iTunes in that year. And according to the International Federation of the Phonographic Industry, the best-selling single of 2012 globally, with 12.5 million units sold worldwide during that year. And that music video we all love, it was the most viewed clip on Vivo with more than 360 million views. Call Me Maybe won Single of the Year at the 2013 Juno Awards and helped Carly win Junos for Album of the Year and Pop Album of the Year for her album Kiss. To top it all off, Carly would spend the final few months of 2012 and first few months of 2013 opening up for Justin Bieber's Believe tour. What a year it was for Carly Rae Jepsen. Call Me Maybe wasn't a flash in the pan. While it still remains to be Carly Rae Jepsen's biggest song, I mean, it's pretty hard to top, she has continued to build a large and devoted fan base while evolving into one of pop music's most exciting stars. With all that said, Call Me Maybe is still omnipresent in our everyday lives, especially if you consider how it pioneered the viral video years before TikTok was even an idea. It's been designated the best-selling domestic Canadian single in history, with 1.5 billion streams on Spotify and 1.65 billion views on YouTube. And that's not to mention the likely billions of views the song receives through its copious lip-sync covers and drag queen performance videos, where it remains a favorite. The song's been parodied by everyone from Sesame Street's Cookie Monster, who sang Share It Maybe, in a bid to get bites of other people's cookies, to Weird Al Yankovic, who included it in his Now That's What I Call Polka melody. Nice. It's also been performed on TV shows like Glee, Coronation Street, and America's Got Talent. Billboard has called it the 8th best pop song of all time in its list of the top 500. 8th! That's a list where only Whitney Houston, ABBA, The Temptations, Backstreet Boys, Kelly Clarkson, Madonna, and Michael Jackson have a song that's considered better. That's pretty good company to be in. Billboard also declared Call Me Maybe to have the greatest chorus of the century so far. Of course, no one was more surprised by the success of Call Me Maybe than Carly Rae Jepsen herself. iHeartRadio's Shannon Burns asked Carly whether she'd ever expected the song to become the massive hit that it did.
Okay, so Josh Ramsey was in here probably a couple months ago now. And we were talking about Call Me Maybe. And he had mentioned that when you guys made that song, he had no idea that it would become what it did. Did you feel the same way?
I don't think me, Tavish, or Josh had any clue. I think
did you know, like, okay, this is at least going to be like a top Canadian song, or did you had no idea?
No, I think that's the thing with all songs. It's just sort of like you have to let them go, and then whatever happens, happens. And I definitely felt the same with that. Of always like hopeful of like, okay, but no expectations. I think when it hit like top number 9 in Canada, I was like, we should throw a party. This is great news. And then it just like got a whole different life of its own. So, and still today, whenever I'm putting out new music, I'm always just like, whatever happens, happens. And like, not too much investment in that side of it.
Yeah.
You heard it right here, folks. If you don't expect to write the catchiest song of all time, you might just do it. I'm Myles Galloway, and that was the story of Carly Rae Jepsen's Call Me Maybe on Encore.
Encore is an iHeartRadio Canada podcast. Subscribe to this podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts. Download the iHeartRadio app for more great podcasts just like these. You know the songs, but do you know their history? Join us for an in-depth look at the stories behind the biggest songs in the world. This is Encore. The stories behind the songs.
Thank you.
Here's iHeartRadio's Myles Galloway.
Yes, lend me some sugar. I am your neighbor. And this is Encore. I'm Myles Galloway. I sound like I've had more than enough sugar. Hopefully you've got your Polaroid picture ready to go, because this is the story of Outkast's Hey Ya. In 2003, it's fair to say that rap duo Outkast were at a bit of a creative crossroads. Their 2000 album, Stankonia, yes, had people rethinking what hip-hop music could be, with songs such as B.O.B., Miss Jepsen, and So Fresh, So Clean winning them Grammy Awards for Best Rap Performance and Best Rap Album. And Miss Jepsen, their Billboard Hot 100 hit from Stankonia, was a sultry tongue-in-cheek affair that gave the duo of Andre 3000 and Big Boy a rare trifecta of accolades in pop culture. Hip-hop cred, mainstream pop appeal, and hipster acknowledgement all at once. There was no right or wrong way to enjoy Outkast. They were truly a unique proposition when it came to their musical stylings and their creativity, and they were finally being given their flowers. The band was acutely aware of this, with Andre 3000 telling Music Plus in 2003,
Really, it's a blessing. I think we have. I think we're popular. I don't think we're pop, though. I think we're popular. Yeah. But we have underground sensibilities, though. You know, I think the way we approach it. So I think it's a great balance. Is what's going on. I think that's what it is. It's just a balance. I think we know what we want to do. We know that we don't want to, conform to, some penny ante song, but at the same time, we want our music to reach everybody in the world. So we don't want to be so into our own little world that nobody gets it except us, so we most definitely want to be popular for that reason, only to be popular so everybody hears it. Everybody doesn't have to like it, but, as long as everybody gets a chance to hear it.
I mean, let's not forget, Outkast were not a rookie hip-hop duo. In fact, right before winning the aforementioned Grammy Awards, the pair dropped a greatest hits album with songs featuring on the collection from as far back as 1994. By the time Stankonia had ran its course, you probably could have guessed that a hiatus for the duo was on the cards. Andre 3000 was looking for new avenues to express himself creatively and moved from Atlanta, Georgia to Los Angeles, California to begin his acting career. Unfortunately, his gamble didn't really pay off, and by 2003, his acting career was pretty stunted. Alone in his home, Andre 3000 envisioned a new kind of project, a solo project, one influenced by, but not completely different than the Outkast records before it. A pop record, a jazz record, a funk record, all in one. A record and a concept that would come to be known as The Love Below. Andre 3000 told Much Music's Nam Kiwanuka this in 2003.
Okay, originally these were solo albums, and we decided in the 9th inning, 12th hour, to make it a double album. And The Love Below was originally a group of songs that I had, and me and a video director who directed Hey Ya and The Way You Move video, we were going to do a short film. Well, not a short film, like an independent film, and the film was called The Love Below. The Love Below was about this guy, myself, my character, that moved to Paris, and he had a relationship with all different types of women, and every song was supposed to represent a certain type of woman.
I want to reference that there was no bad blood between Andre and Big Boy at this time. They were just kind of on separate paths. And looking back at the timelines now, there wasn't really much of a hiatus either. Studio manager and engineer John Fry told Sound on Sound, while it might have looked like they were taking a break, it couldn't have been further from the truth. Quote, they did start to work more and more separately as the years went on, but they always came together and critiqued each other's music and made suggestions. It was never a rub. If one was in with me, the other would just come in the next time. I think that at the stage of the career that they're in, they have so much going on. It's difficult for them to stay as focused as they'd like to be, and I think that there's a part of them that enjoys working solo. They just like to get in that zone and create and make the records they're hearing in their heads. By the time he had about 5 solo songs conceptualized, Andre 3000 realized he wasn't quite proficient enough in Pro Tools to actually put his concept album together on his own. So he finally contacted Big Boy to officially transform the work into an Outkast project. Little did he know, however, that Big Boy had some ideas of his own. Andre returned to ATL and Outkast Stankonia Studios, and within 2 months, 35 songs were created in some skeletal form. Big Boy and Andre continued to bounce ideas off each other for a while, thinking about how they might make Andre's vision for The Love Below a reality. But it was the work that Big Boy had done on the funk and bass-driven concept album Speaker Box that started to take precedence. In 2003, Andre 3000 told Much Music's Nam Kiwanuka,
We heard every song that we were doing along the way. It wasn't like we just separated ourselves and did 2 total albums. We did it physically in different studios, but I would hear his songs along the way. He would hear my songs along the way. So it was, getting opinions on what you think about this. You like this? You like this?
All in all, engineer John Fry estimates that 120 songs were written for the projects, some for Big Boy and some for Andre. Deep in that songbook was a little gem called Hey Ya. You've still got your Polaroid picture, haven't you? Early recording on Hey Ya began in December 2002, simply written as Andre 3000 and his guitar. Inspired more by bands like the Ramones, the Hives, and the Smiths than by what was going on in hip-hop, the process was equal parts spontaneous and meticulous. Pete Novak, the man who actually recorded Andre's vocals on the track, told MTV in 2004 that Andre 3000 would painstakingly record each line in the song 30 to 40 times. Every single vocal heard on Hey Ya is actually Andre 3000 singing in different styles through different filters or laying vocals over the top of each other. That sounds a lot like how I record this podcast. I'm sure you can hear it. Novak noted how mind-blowing this was, saying, I don't think he was a singer, of Andre and Outkast for rapping. I had the reaction the public probably had later. Lyrically, Hey Ya was part of the grander cinematic vision of The Love Below and the complexities and frustration with modern relationship dynamics, with Andre noting to Nam in 2003.
That's one of the problems that I'm having with even the whole concept of marriage, because I don't know where it really came from. I don't know if you just grew up and your parents say, well, you're supposed to go to school, you're supposed to go to college and get a nice job, you're supposed to marry this guy, marry this girl, you're supposed to have kids, and that's how it's supposed to be. And so your whole life you're trying to get to this thing that somebody, like these goals that somebody else, they set up. So who's to say that you and a guy or me and a girl can't just be friends for the rest of our lives and love each other like that? To hell with the whole marriage thing, because sometimes I think once you put labels on stuff, it kills it. And so I do think society has set it up where, you're so gung-ho about, I need a boyfriend or I need a girlfriend, But I think the innate part is you do need affection, you do need compassion, and I think that's the type of animals we are.
Or, as he would put it in simpler terms on the set of the video shoot, in typical Andre 3000 fashion, Hey Ya is really about saying, fuck it, live life, Don't want to meet your daddy, just want you in my caddy. I had to. Such lyrical earworms such as that one, and the infamous Shake It Like a Polaroid Picture, may have come to Andre 3000 by some sort of divine intervention, as those involved in the production of the song never saw him write a single line down. I've never seen him write anything down lyrically, John Fry recalled. What he likes to do is drive around and live it and think about it. And he comes in and says, ready? I can't remember him ever coming in to do vocals unprepared. Pete Novak also recalled, we recorded a lot of vocals and lived with them and trashed them. There were so many different versions of that song. If I had the files, I could let you hear 20 different versions of that song. Ultimately, the version that we ended up with struck a chord with fans everywhere. From the cheerful sounding opening pickup beats, the call and response of what's cooler than being cool, to the 8 times repeating the simple to sing chorus of Hey Ya. Beyonce and It actress at the time Lucy Liu also get an iconic shout out as an example of independent women, calling it back to Destiny's Child hit Independent Women Part 1 from the Charlie's Angels soundtrack. On the video front, few videos capture the wacky, nostalgic and feel-good vibes of a song down to a T like the Hey Ya video does. Andre 3000 plays every member of a Beatles-esque pop band aptly named The Love Below, including keyboardist Benjamin Andre, bassist Possum Aloysius Jenkins, vocalist Andre Ice Cold 3000, drummer Dookie Blossom Gain III, 3 backing vocalists called the Love Haters, and guitarist Johnny Vulture. With Andre 3000 telling Music Plus in 2003.
Ice Cold is the lead singer.
Okay. Then you had Johnny Vulture.
Johnny Vulture is the guitar player. He's the youngest person in the band.
Okay.
He's pretty much just happy just to be a part of the band. He just got into the band.
Okay.
So he's pretty geeked.
All right, so tell us about the bassist, Possum Jenkins.
Yeah, Possum Jenkins, he's from Alabama.
Okay.
And, he's just a country cat, man. He cool.
Uh-huh.
Only thing he wants, man, is enough money to eat, enough money to get a plate.
Okay.
And he just want to play his bass. That's all he wants to do.
Okay, and you got the drummer, Dookie?
Dookie, that boy is a fool.
Yeah, why is he a fool?
He's crazy because, he go off on these tantrums and he's kind of like the troublemaker. He don't like to be to rehearsal on time, and he always have all these stipulations like he can't play unless he has a hat on, and he's a mess, man. He's a mess.
Then you got the keyboardist,
Benjamin Andre. He's actually the musical director of the band.
Okay.
He's the oldest person. He's been around the longest. He knows, he's been to school for music, so he knows chord changes and all this stuff. He can read music. He pretty much holds the band together. He's like the father figure, pretty much.
Okay, and what about the Love Hater band?
The Love Haters, the background singers. Those are some cats from Atlanta.
Okay.
They've been together for a while. I remember when they used to sing in high school together.
Okay.
They used to have another name. I forgot the name, though. Okay. But actually, they're in the studio right now working on their album, the Love Haters album.
Okay.
And Johnny Vulture, his band is doing the album, The Vultures. So look out for that one, too.
Okay. Now, these are real characters. These are characters that you created.
I made them up.
Yeah, you did. You doing good though, because at first I was like, okay, he made them up, then you had me fooled, but you're a good actor though. You know what I mean?
The fictitious band blur the lines between the idealized past and present, paying homage to the Beatles' iconic performance on The Ed Sullivan Show and Paul McCartney's video for his song Coming Up. Director Brian Barber came up with the original idea of this British invasion in reverse, with The Love Below being an American band hitting UK soil for the first time. Throughout the video, stylized black and white footage of fans freaking out is cut into staged-like studio footage as women rush the stage, fainting and screaming in a frenzy to touch the band members. Because he played so many individual parts in the video, Andre 3000 had to perform the song as many as 23 times, all from different angles and different positions so that each member of the band could be filmed. That's still only 3 more times than he recorded the song. Continuing his explanation of the video with Music Plus.
So I was thinking, what's a nice way to make this video? So I was like, what if every member was me?
Yeah.
And director Brian Barber, he knew how to make it right. He said, technically, if we use this camera called a motion control camera, it's a camera where every move is documented in a computer. So for me to duplicate every character, it would look real by the time it's done, because all the camera moves was slick and smooth.
And if you're wondering who choreographed Andre 3000's slick dance moves in the video, well, he did. Or nobody did. Andre told Nam Kiwanuka in 2003.
The video, sometimes videos can make a song sound better because you see a visual, or some people don't know how to move. So like when you see a Hey Ya video and you see the dances, which were all made up on the spot, I did not have time to make up moves, so they all just some crazy made up stuff. A lot of people don't know how to move to certain beats, so you show people how to move to it. And so videos are important so they can have something tied with what they're hearing and what they're seeing.
As you've probably guessed by now, Hey Ya absolutely blew up the charts upon its release. Released as a mostly separate double album, Speakerboxxx The Love Below was as successful as it was ambitious. Originally charting at a humble number 57 on the Billboard Hot 100 in October 2003, Hey Ya eventually topped the Hot 100 for 9 weeks from December 13th, 2003 to February 7th, 2004. It was the number 1 song as Ryan Seacrest began his tenure at American Top 40 and crossed over through hot R&B, hip-hop, mainstream pop, adult contemporary, and rock radio. As the iTunes Store was in its infancy at the time, Hey Ya became the first ever song to hit 1 million downloads, and of course, was a number 1 song here in Canada. Hey Ya cleaned up at the awards circuit as well, winning Video of the Year at the BET Awards and the MTV VMAs in the USA and Europe, as well as a Grammy Award for Best Urban Alternative Performance. Uploaded to YouTube in 2009, Hey Ya has amassed over 680 million video views, easily the duo's most viewed video of all time. Fast forwarding to 2023, Outkast remains as elusive as ever, releasing only 1 more album as a duo, 2006's Idlewild, which was a poorly received concept album based off of their musical film of the same name. Never officially breaking up, Outkast performed at a few festival dates in Atlanta, Louisiana, and the UK's Bestival in 2014, and although fans had hoped this would spark a new creative renaissance, the two quietly went back on hiatus. Andre 3000 and Big Boy continued to work on solo projects, with Big Boy last releasing a full album in 2017, and Andre 3000 releasing and winning a Grammy for his 2020 collaboration track with Anderson .Paak titled Come Home. At the time of recording, there has been a little more Outkast activity. An animated music video for a song off their 1998 record, Aquemini, called Spotty Oddy Dopalicious. Needless to say, neither Big Boy or Andre 3000 appear in the video, but I'm sure Dookie the drummer is on there somewhere. Okay, that's it. I'm manifesting an episode of Encore on Spotty Oddy Dopalicious. Make it happen. Until then, I'm Myles Galloway, and that was the story of Outkast's Hey Ya on Encore, an iHeartRadio podcast.
Encore is an iHeartRadio Canada podcast. Subscribe to this podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts. Download the iHeartRadio app for more great podcasts just like these. This is Encore. The stories behind the songs.
Thank you.
Here's iHeartRadio's Myles Galloway.
Well, there aren't many summer playlists you won't find this song on. I'm Myles Galloway, and this is the story of LEN's Steal My Sunshine. One of the biggest music stories every year is the battle to see which artist releases the song of the summer, but rarely is the winner clear-cut and decisive. For example, in 2024, which song would you say best repped the summer? Sabrina Carpenter's Espresso, Post Malone and Morgan Wallen's I Had Some Help, Shaboozie's A Bar Song Tipsy, Chapel Roan's Good Luck Babe, maybe? Or Hot to Go from Chapel? In my humble opinion, the winner was Espresso. But according to its Songs of the Summer chart, Billboard decided that I Had Some Help took the honor. Debating the candidates of Song of the Summer is an annual tradition for music fans, but there is one song that I feel will always be the song of any and every summer, Steal My Sunshine by LEN. Yep, despite its release way back in '99, there isn't one person on earth who can convince me that there is a song better suited for radiating summertime vibes than Steal My Sunshine. To me, and likely many millions of people, LEN's hit song better exemplifies the summer season than any other song. And I'm not alone in this opinion. In 2016, music site Stereo Gum wrote that every year its staff decide on a song of the summer. However, they claim that, quote, it feels like a hollow exercise, eternally doomed to failure, because there's only one true song of the summer, the song of every summer, past, present, and future. And that song is LEN's Steal My Sunshine. There you have it. Wait, Stereo Gum was only joking? Well, I'm not. I stand behind my words. So where did this champion of all songs of the summer come from? I'm about to tell you. LEN was founded by Mark Costanzo, who at the time had just moved from Montreal to Toronto as a teenager. While he got involved with the local punk scene, Mark's true passion was hip-hop, listening to Run DMC, Schoolie D, and Beastie Boys, and making beats at home with his sampler and MPC. However, Mark decided to start recording songs that more reflected what was going on in alternative and indie rock, which was thriving at the time. He decided to name the project LEN after a good friend of his in high school who was, quote, the funniest dude he'd ever met in his whole life. And that's what my old high school friends say about me. While he would never describe LEN as a band, he did invite his sister Sharon to join and contribute vocals when he needed them. Eventually, she would become the second member of LEN, but neither of them admittedly had much talent behind them, as they would tell Much Music's Suk Yin Lee.
You know what we did when we started recording? Because we're not really singers, right?
No.
We're not really anything.
No.
You know, we just made it in our basement, all these records. So you just sing the way you sing best, you know? And I sing with that crappy, raspy voice. You know, because if someone says, are you a singer? I don't know. I just rasp it out.
In 1993, the siblings recorded their first album, a lo-fi effort called Superstar that saw them get some help from East Coast musicians such as Joel Plaskett, then of Thrush Hermit, and rapper Stinkin' Rich, who would later change his name to Buck65. Self-released in 1994 by Costanzo's own independent label Fun Trip, Superstar would get a boost thanks to Much Music, which played the very low-budget video for single Candy Pop. And CBC, which briefly adopted the song as the theme for its finance series for teens called Street Sense. These plugs helped LEN build some buzz and even sell CD and cassette copies of the album. though the customized fun fur packaging also helped. Here are Mark and Sharon explaining the decision to dress up their music to Much Music, Suk-Yin Lee.
But what about like the fuzzy package in the
that was sort of a joke at the outset. We just sort of thought it would be fun to send it out with some furry covers, and then I got started sewing them and then just couldn't stop. And
I'm allergic to it. So
the whole house was run over by it. We're all in hives, and then eventually, people really caught on to it, so it made it sort of hard to keep going with it because it was what people, it was like the fur and the furs. So. Yeah.
Another album arrived in 1997, the more polished pop rock album called Get Your Legs Broke, which, like Superstar, would sell between 10 to 15,000 copies. Sharon would later tell the Chicago Sun-Times that they weren't supposed to be taken seriously. We were a joke band. We'd show up at a gig and there would be 4 stoners and 10 people who were alcoholics or something. Eventually it got to the point where industry people would come out. We couldn't understand why people were cramping our style with seriousness. Playing guitar and making more rock-based music was wearing thin on the Costanzos, though. While they found it easy to make, it wasn't of much interest to them to play. So they decided to completely overhaul the sound of their music. Here's Mark telling the New Music's Byron Wong what made LEN change their sound.
I guess in '93 we made the first LEN record. At that time I was making beats. I was making I had my sampler, and Brian from Hip Hop Group was showing me how to make beats. I mixed their record for the first time. I was into hip hop for 3 or 4 years before that, and then me and Sharon decided we were gonna play some rock stuff. I guess it was rock, you can call that. And we went into playing shows as an indie rock group, whatever, pop, punk, whatever.
I still have a fuzzy green cassette.
We went on the indie rock tip for one reason only, is that all the hip-hop dudes, my whole crew was telling me that's what I should do, right? Because that's what I did best. At that point, I didn't make a lot of beats. I can't believe that. That actually looks good on you, drunk. So, yeah, my whole crew was basically telling me that me and Sharon, they said, because we played a couple songs on guitar and everyone was saying you should play that. So we put this band together. We didn't know how to play, remember? When we put it live, no one knew what to make of it. And we used to just smash guitars after 5 or 10 minutes, People used to show up to see that. It was funny. But then after, in 95 or 96, we decided, by that point I was making a lot of beats, and I had a lot of beats, and I was producing a lot of hip-hop. And I was like, all right, I can't do this anymore. Sharon said the same thing. We just couldn't do rock music anymore. We don't listen to it, so, ever, So, it's fun to play. Yeah. Well, that was the point. It was fun to play. So we played it, and then we stopped playing it because it was just, I smashed my last guitar, and at that point I didn't have any more money, so we just decided we had to do something else. And I had a sampler, and I was making beats. The weird thing about it is I think we never really listened to the music. When we were making rock music, we weren't really listening to that kind of stuff. So it was so in our brains, it's been always the same, right? Just making whatever we feel like. And the beats just happened to come out on this record, on the major record. On the major label, the beats came out, so that's confused a lot of people, because when they hear the last record, they're saying, oh, you guys came out with a major album and tried to make beats for, to sell records or whatever it was.
A change in musical direction was on the horizon for LEN, and it was all because of a trip Mark Costanzo made to Halifax in the early 90s. There he met members of the local hip-hop scene, specifically a trio called Hip Club Groove, who had released an album through Sloan's Murder Records called Trailer Park Hip Hop. That album garnered a lot of attention across college radio and found the group included in the burgeoning East Coast music scene. Mark found himself hanging out with Derek D-Rock McKenzie, Corey Check Love Shaquille Bowles, and Brian DJ Moves Higgins, and eventually they would team up to tour Canada. Mark even offered to release Hip Club Groove's next album, Land of the Lost, on his label Fun Trip. At the same time, Mark was mentoring an up-and-coming pop-punk band from Ajax, Ontario called Sum 41, whose self-titled cassette would be released by Fun Trip. But if you want to hear more on that, check out the episode of Encore where we take you behind Sum 41's anthem Fat Lip. But working with members of Hip Club Groove helped Mark shift the focus of LEN's music toward more of a laid-back, old-school hip-hop party vibe. So he invited them to join him and Sharon in LEN, along with new members Planet P, aka Kudu 5, and the Drunkness Monster. More of a crew than a band, the new lineup would completely reinvent LEN. Getting some strong feedback from people they knew in the music industry, LEN were offered a record deal with the WOC label, a Sony imprint that had scored big with albums by Fiona Apple, Jamiroquai, and another Toronto artist, trip-hop musician Esthero. Mark would credit the label for seeing the group's vision and for letting them do whatever they wanted and be whatever they wanted to be. One of the first songs LEN worked on was one that came to Mark in 1996 while he was partying at a rave. He would tell Stereo Gum, "I was at an outdoor electronic music festival up north, like a rave, and I just got caught up in the night. The song is about how I felt, and then it was exaggerated by the fact that I'm sitting in the middle of a field looking at the stars about 1,000 feet away from the stage, watching everybody dancing at 3 a.m. And I wrote part of it on my leg and a lot of it on a napkin." Mark would share that anecdote countless times for years to come, but in an interview with Much Music's Rachel Perry, he would confirm that raving really was a source of inspiration for him.
People think it's a made-up story, but I was just sitting at a rave a long time ago, 2 years ago, and it just came up. Really, I mean, it's like we don't really write songs; we just come up with things, you know.
Right.
So we just came up with Sunshine.
And like, we're happy we did.
I barely remember, but it happened. That's good, yeah.
With lyrics written on his leg and a napkin, Mark went to an after-party following the rave with his friend Brendan Canning, a Toronto musician who at the time was just about to form his own band you may have heard of, Broken Social Scene. Mark credits Brendan for playing him the record that would become the song's foundation, an old disco favourite by the Andrea True Connection called More, More, More. You know, how do you like it? How do you like it? That song actually topped the Canadian singles charts in July 1976 and was considered a genre staple, but there was something about it that clicked for Mark. As soon as he heard it, it was an aha moment. He would tell Sound of the Signals, "I remember jumping up, freaking out, and right away looping it on the MPC 60. That was pretty well it. Over the next few days, I recorded it in my bedroom. Mark threw some vocals over the sample, which isn't the main part of More, More, More itself, but if you fast forward to the 2-minute and 30-second mark of the song, you'll hear it. But Mark didn't immediately do anything with the song. He wasn't even sure if it was a song and thought they'd leave it off the next LEN record. He kept the master tape reel of it under his bed for a year and a half, where it would gather dust. Until one day, he played it for a friend at Columbia Records who proceeded to freak out over it. The song was then mixed and on its way to becoming a hit. Although he was never a fully fledged member of LEN, Brendan Canning's involvement wasn't just in playing Mark the song that would spark inspiration. He was also asked to freestyle some words that would play at the beginning of the track, as per the label's suggestion that the song needed some kind of intro. He would tell CBC that he was paid $2,500 for his little speech, which he would use to buy guitar pedals to record Broken Social Scene's debut album. In an interview with Beta, Canning would explain his minor role.
LEN is the band who wrote the song "Steal My Sunshine." That you can, if you're in North America, you can hear it in Tropicana ads currently.
Oh, right.
But it was like it's the biggest song of my career. Also.
Yeah.
If you're going to gauge it in those kind of terms.
Yeah.
But it's far from my greatest success. But that was just accidental. You know, we had me, Mark from LEN, Greg, who was in Treble Charger, if you remember that. This is very Canadian centric. But yeah, we had like this little side band going, and then I accidentally ended up in LEN.
Once Mark and Sharon had cut their vocals, they took the demo to Los Angeles to have it mixed at Madonna's one-on-one studios by the Dust Brothers, a duo best known for producing Beastie Boys, Beck, and a song you might know called Mbop by Hanson. Produced by Mark's alias Mumble C, not to be confused with his other alias, Burger Pimp, LEN had a song that sounded like a hit called Steal My Sunshine. Mark was hard at work on a new LEN album when work called. His label, I mean. They had secured the rights to the soundtrack of a cool new action comedy called Go that starred a bunch of young hot actors like Sarah Polley, Katie Holmes, and a pre-fame Melissa McCarthy. Along with No Doubt, Air, and Fatboy Slim, Steal My Sunshine would make its debut both in the film and on the album. Released on March 30th, 1999, the Go soundtrack would prove to be a hit, even bigger than the film itself. That was mostly because of Steal My Sunshine, which quickly was becoming a hit. Here is D-Rock telling Much Music's Rick the Temp about the impact the soundtrack had on the song.
It's all working out. Yeah. I mean, I don't think the album would have done as well if that hadn't.
Is that right? Yeah.
Happened. Yeah.
Kudo 5, you're gonna say something down there?
I was just saying.
You're the floor, man. You have the lab on you.
I was just gonna say it's better that it came out that the song came out on the soundtrack first. It's a good intro, definitely.
Thanks to its inclusion on Go, MTV, and Much Music put the music video in rotation. Now, about that video. LEN had a vision in mind, but they didn't think their label would approve their request. But as it turns out, if you ask, you shall receive. The plan was to go down to Daytona Beach in Florida with every friend they could think of, buy obscene amounts of booze, rent some scooters, and just party their asses off. But also capture it on camera and turn that into a music video. The label said sure, why not, and gave LEN a reported $160,000 to do as they pleased. Here's Mark telling the New Music's Byron Wong about it.
Well, we decided that when we signed the record deal, first of all, we were going to have our own videos, right? So we get to produce and direct our own videos. So, Jeff and Joran at Work Group said, okay, what do you need to make a video? And we said, this amount. And I said, what's the concept? And we told them, they're like, okay, so what's the storyboard? I said, no storyboard. Where are you going to shoot? At Daytona. Who are you bringing? Your friends? What's your crew? And I put together Brad Walsh and Richie Carrot and all those guys. And that was it. And we just brought some cameras. We shot on Pan Airy, so we can carry the camera around. And we just got a lot of liquor and a lot of 22 of our best friends. Stayed at the Hilton. We're banned forever.
Are you? What happened?
Oh, I don't know. Everything happened, man. I can't even tell you.
Oh, man. Remember how, we knocked the fucking... the railing right off of the deck. Pulled the railings right out of the elevators. Just left messes. We were there's so many beer bottles and empty booze bottles. They just stopped cleaning our rooms. They're like,
yeah, they won't even clean our rooms. Yeah. They wrote notes.
Yeah,
the cleaning.
Saying we're not cleaning up after you.
It was amazing. Anyway, so
amazing.
Yeah. So when I went with the crew, because our crew wasn't really used to us, right? Like me directing a video, I was just they're like, okay, we'll shoot from 8 in the morning to 10 at night, and I was like, 1 to 4. We'll shoot for 3 hours.
It's a good work schedule.
Yeah, and they were like 3 hours. I was like, yeah, 3 hours, and we did that we shot for 4 days, and we just come up with ideas. We go, let's rent some Sea-Doos tomorrow. Yeah.
As they would tell Rick the Temp, shooting the video was really just a vacation for them and all their friends. But unfortunately, not all scooters in the video were unharmed.
It was the best vacation we've ever had.
It was just a vacation.
Vacation/video shoot?
You guys are playing a vacation video.
Is that all we're doing?
Yeah, that's all it is.
And you got paid,
There's no
you got paid for
storyboard,
that as well.
We somehow convinced these people to give us money to do a video.
Yeah.
And we somehow convinced them to fly in about 25 of our friends from all over Canada.
Is that right?
That's exactly what happened.
I directed it with one of my friends, B-Rad. And
nice.
We produced it.
And you didn't wipe out on those Vespas, right?
Sean and Richie.
Yeah,
you did.
Our man Fritz the Cat took a big chunk out of one.
Yeah.
Ouch! Out of his.
Out of the scooter.
Out of the scooter.
Out of mine into a wall. No, it was a post.
Now, do we have that? Is that in the video? Can we see that?
Yeah, you can see it.
We can see it. Okay. Well, tell us.
If you watch the go-karts, I got damaged in one of the go-karts.
There's pants down and stuff in the video. You look really hard.
There's pants down in the video?
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to look at that, right?
With all of its rowdy fun and decadence, the music video for Steal My Sunshine played a large part in it making a hit. The song reached number 9 on the Billboard Hot 100, number 8 on the UK singles chart, and naturally number 1 in Canada. The song cleaned up at the 99 Much Music Video Awards, with LEN taking home Best Video, Best Pop Video, and Favourite Canadian Video, which for some reason was presented to them by Paul Stanley of Kiss. At the 2000 Juno Awards, Steal My Sunshine was nominated for Best Single, which it definitely should have won, but lost out to the Tragically Hip and their cottagecore anthem, Bob Cajun. One of the stranger things to come from LEN's fame was confusion about Mark and Sharon. Many people thought they were a couple, not siblings. Mark would tell Sookie and Lee that it was a question he would always get.
People always wonder, you know what? The biggest question we always get is why. Because we walk down the street like this, and people would be like,
I know.
Sick. Oh, come on. It's my sister, man. You know what I mean? I got to live with her every day because we didn't expect to be this big.
Yeah.
And then so we went, we did it, and now we got to be friends.
Are you
no
best
choice.
friends?
Otherwise, we'd fight. We really would. Just like that, fight.
Best friends considering.
Yeah.
That must be weird.
With LEN all of a sudden blowing up, Work decided to push up the release date for their next album, and in one of the biggest no-brainer decisions ever, LEN decided to include Steal My Sunshine despite initial hesitation.
Past the first single, and boom, it's a whole different world going on that disc.
Oh yeah, it's a whole different world. But the second single is going to be bigger than the first one.
Those famous last words you heard right there were brought to you by DJ Moves. Unfortunately for Len, there would be no bigger second single. Released on May 25th, 1999, You Can't Stop the Button Rush was the big major label success that Len had dreamt about. Everything was done on their own terms, including the album's artwork, a comic book-style drawing of Len that was drawn by their friend Drazen. Mark would tell Sound in the Signals, "We actually got a friend who was an animator for some big TV cartoon shows at the time to do it for us. I just remember saying to Sharon how funny it would be if we became cartoon characters. We say a lot of funny things all the time, but I guess we followed up on that one. We're just a bunch of regular weirdo moose-loving Canadians, so that was a good way to make us all look like superstars." I definitely remember at one point trying to take a picture for the cover and thinking, well, those two faces aren't going to sell any records, so we went with the cartoon. But the label wasn't down with it at all. At all. One interesting fact about the album cover, rapper Buck65, who contributed to earlier Len recordings, was actually included in the illustration on the cover despite not being part of Len. He was asked, but turned them down. And it seems like he was the only one to turn Len down, considering they just about invited everyone they knew to contribute on the album, including CC DeVille, guitarist of hair metal band Poison. While the album would go on to sell more than 2 million copies worldwide, the reception by both critics and fans didn't really reflect sales. As an album, the fact that there was no other Steal My Sunshine didn't help. Instead, the band chose to make almost every song on the record sound different from what came before and after it. It would go from syrupy pop music to hyperactive hip-hop to slippery funk to bratty alt-rock to big beat electronica and German electro. That second single DJ Moves predicted would be bigger than Steal My Sunshine, that would be Feelin' Alright, a jokey pop-punk song that wouldn't even get to sniff the charts. But Len weren't fazed by the criticism or potential failure of the album. Here they are with Much Music's Bill Wilichka.
If you want to return it, you can return it to me and I'll give you your money back personally.
Years later, Mark would tell Stereo Gum how he actually felt about the album, admitting that a lot of it's terrible. But no matter what bumps in the road they faced, Len were touring the world, performing Steal My Sunshine and living their best lives. They knew their success wouldn't last forever. Here they are telling Much Music's Rachel Perry about their expectations.
You know, it's not our focus of our life, Len, you know, we all do other things, so we're coming together to do a record. And we're all having a good time. It's the best summer we've had all together forever. We're in a bus traveling around the country and in the States. We're playing Letterman with your best friends. Come on. How can that not be a good thing?
Oh, it doesn't get much better than that, eh?
I know. And if it ends tomorrow, you know what? We had the best summer of our lives, to tell you the honest truth.
You know what? That makes me really happy to hear you guys say that. We're lucky people.
We're lucky. We're lucky, and we're lucky that people actually, people are, you know, just say it bluntly, people are buying our CDs, you know, and it's helping us have a really good time. You know, and it's like, thanks to everybody, because it's like...
Len would take their partying on the road throughout 1999 and 2000, joining the Edgefest tour across Canada with headliners Hole, Silverchair, and a who's who of Canadian rock, including Moist, Finger 11, and Big Wreck. However, it was one performance in Alberta at the Calgary Stampede where Len's non-stop party would literally be shut down by the police. Here they are telling Much Music's Bradford Howe about what happened.
Well, we have been officially banned from the Calgary Stampede.
For life.
For life.
Wow. Brad for life.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
So you might say they stopped the bum rush.
Yeah.
Or at least...
It was the cattle call. The cattle call.
Right. They at least preempted the bum rush.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So you got banned because you...
It was like our set had already started.
Okay.
DJs were up doing their thing, and we kind of get bullied all of a sudden by with fines, per swear word.
Like $500 per swear word, and we're not into being bullied. So my man BP, he went on to say expletive, suck my expletive several times, and here we are being banned from the Calgary Stampede.
I think we're gonna make it straight now. Calgary and the fans were awesome.
Yeah,
the show,
they're dope.
we were in the middle of rocking a really cool show, and it was sad. We wanted to keep going, but So
they
we'll
weren't into
we'll
it.
give props to the fans of Calgary.
There was cops with cowboy hats, all like, you know, it was like a scene from the Blues Brothers. They're all like standing on the side, just like, you know, they totally cut off our set, you know, 50 minutes early. It was quite a scene.
I think
you
that
know?
that was a lot of the problem too. They expected like 10 Steal My Sunshine songs, and like they should have did the research a bit better. That we're like more of like a hip hop crew that comes in and just rocks the crowd instead of just.
Dropping by Much Music a few months later, Mark and Sharon recounted their whirlwind year to VJ, Suki and Lee with their tongues planted firmly in cheeks.
It was what, a year?
What was?
That whole
Our
thing.
fame?
Yeah.
The Joyride?
We made it #1 in Europe, in America, here. Australia.
Mexico?
So we toured Europe.
Yeah.
We toured the US, and we did a whole bunch of shows with Ricky Martin and Enrique Iglesias. Oh yeah, booze, right. You know what I mean? We had the closet. He had the room like the size of this place right here.
Were you seduced by the lifestyle? Is it like all that it's cracked up to be? Like,
it's funny.
It's funny.
You know, you meet some funny people. They're not going to be your best friends for the rest of your life, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, what do you come away with all that? Like, do you feel like you sort of go into that area and come back, and then what are you left with after all that sort of dazzling stuff?
You're not given anything, so you're not left with anything. You know what I mean? Like your normal life, as long as you your normal life is normal. I ride. I live up the mountains half the year. Sharon just travels, but she's done it before, so it's like, by the end of it, you just got money.
Yeah.
And a couple friends and a lot of memories of fighting people and screaming at people and hanging on to Robbie Williams' leg and punching him in the gut. Remember that?
Yeah.
Unfortunately for Len, their fun journey of 1,000,000 miles was about to end. In 2000, Len's label, Work, ceased operations, and they were shuffled within the major label system, eventually ending up on EMI Records. Their new label didn't hear a single hit in any of the music Len had recorded, and they were dropped shortly after. The version of Len that found them their stardom was over. Some members left, while Mark and Sharon still kept writing and recording new tracks. Mark would tell the Toronto Star, "It wasn't a hard decision. We just realized that everything we're not anymore. We made a choice to walk away from it rather than try to keep living that same moment over and over again. That was one of the reasons we had the luxury to say, let's stop so we can do the things we really want to." They secured a deal with DreamWorks that would prove to be so short-lived, their next album titled We Be Who We Be wouldn't even see a release. Promo copies were sent out to the media in 2002, but the album was shelved. 3 years later, they released a slightly different version of that album with an indie label under a new name, Diary of the Madmen, but it was forgotten as soon as it came out. Mark would tell Aesthetic magazine, "With Diary of the Madmen, we were just trying to figure ourselves out again after a song like Steal My Sunshine, which ruled my life, where I couldn't walk down the street without somebody screaming in my face. It starts to take over a bit." In 2008, Mark posted a message on Len's MySpace page saying, "It looks like we're not going to make another Len record. Just couldn't get it and everyone together." While Len were officially split up, the Costanzos continued to make music, but they took a 7-year break before releasing their next album, It's Easy If You Try. Back on EMI, the album didn't move the needle all that much for Len, but as Mark would tell the Toronto Star, "We're not putting out an album because we're trying to sell 1,000,000 records, we're putting it out because it feels good." At the same time, he was questioning why Len had been written off as a one-hit wonder. He would tell Aesthetic magazine in 2012, "The one-hit wonder thing is difficult to understand because, in one sense, people are saying that if you only made one hit song, you have to quit music because of that. What do you want me to do? Quit because I'm not going to have another huge hit? We're never going to win the lottery again, but why can't we just keep going?" As it turned out, Len would not keep going. While Mark has never officially called time on Len, he has since moved on, launching a company called Inside Music Nashville that works in catalog publishing rights. When asked by Stereogum in 2016 if there would be any more Len releases in the future, he said no, I don't think so. I mean, we haven't really talked in a while, me and my sister, but if we ever do make an album, it's going to be an acoustic thing, because that's what I'm doing right now. I bet if I started just making songs by myself like that again and digging deep, it's just not going to be some Starbucks f***ing kind of shit. It would be interesting for me to get that deep into myself again and could be really bad. Despite turning a quarter century old in 2024, Len's Steal My Sunshine still continues to hold on to its relevance in the modern music landscape. Every summer it creeps into playlists that best capture the season. You better believe I have it at the top of Myles' summertime bangers. Rolling Stone said it best when it placed the song at number 2 on its list of 99 best songs of 1999, just behind TLC's No Scrubs, calling it the most perfect of all summer hits from the hottest summer ever for Top 40 radio. LEN never had a second hit, and nobody cared. Not even them, because there's no way to improve on this one. Mark Costanzo himself can't believe its longevity. In 2014, he told Sound in the Signals, "All I can say is that it's awesome to make a song in your bedroom and say whatever you want to say in whatever way you want to say it, and somehow it ends up on the radio." Even crazier is that it's still being played 15 years later. I mean, just the fact that a raspy-voiced Canadian with his sister singing completely the opposite, talking about whatever the hell he was feeling after too long of a party, singing over a disco beat that a porn star originally sang on, actually made it to radio. Well, that's some shit. Steal My Sunshine has become a go-to song in all walks of pop culture in recent years. In a 2020 interview with SOCAN's World and Music magazine, Mark estimated that he has approached about 30 to 50 times a year for the past 5 years. I haven't had to say no to anything. It's generally just cool, fun shit. All the summer commercials. It has since made appearances in episodes of South Park, American Dad, and Mr. Robot, and soundtracked a Tropicana commercial. A natural fit. Heck, even Canada's own Tim Hortons came a knocking in 2024 to license the song for its summer beverage campaign. And let's not forget about where Steal My Sunshine might boast its greatest significance at karaoke bars across the world. Even Mark admitted to Stereo Gum that he's gone up and sang his own song at least once, saying, "I went to karaoke last week and I did it. It's funny, because it doesn't seem like me, you know? I'm singing it and I'm going, holy shit, I can do the voice perfectly." And it's just like, is this really me? Did I really sing this fucking song? I mean, I love the fact that it still makes me a fortune every year and the royalties are incredible. And that no one's even pushing it to make money. It just happens. I don't even understand how people relate to it. When I listen to that song, I just can't make sense of it. Because there's nothing right about that song. The elements are all wrong. But that's why I love it so much. I still love it to this day. Because I listen to it and I go, I don't know what happened, man. It's like a perfect storm of the weirdest shit. Okay, I'm sold. Anyone want to join me for some karaoke? Though I need a Mark, because I'm definitely the Sharon of the two when it comes to singing this song. I'm Myles Galloway, and that was the story of LEN's Steal My Sunshine on Encore, with new episodes every Thursday.
Encore is an iHeartRadio Canada podcast. Subscribe to this podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts. Download the iHeartRadio app for more great podcasts just like these.
Dive into the behind-the-scenes world of your favorite artists' interviews with us, Shannon Burns, producer Jess, and the entire iHeartRadio team on The Filter Podcast. Grab your headphones. New episodes land every week wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Encore. The stories behind the songs.
Thank you.
Here's iHeartRadio's Myles Galloway.
Yes, back once again, podcasting on my own. I'm Myles Galloway, and this is the story of Robyn's Dancing on My Own. So, how many pop songs can you name that are universally adored? I mean, a song that everyone loves, and there isn't one person you know of that doesn't like it. There aren't many, are there? I think I can name one, though. Dancing on My Own by Robyn. In case you're unfamiliar with it, the 2010 banger was widely acclaimed by critics, but not so much by the public. In fact, the only country it reached number 1 in was Sweden, Robyn's homeland. But man, if you can name a song from this millennium that has encapsulated pop music better than Dancing on My Own, well, I wouldn't believe you. It is as perfect as pop songs get, and yet the story behind it is just as good as the song. It's a multifaceted narrative that would make a great movie one day. A real underdog comeback story about a young girl who becomes world famous as a teenager, then chooses to give up everything when she realizes she's viewed as a commodity, only to do it all over again on her own terms and become an archetype for so many artists out there who value making art and having full control over their careers. I don't know about you, but I would watch that movie. Robyn Miriam Karlsson was born in Stockholm, Sweden on June 12, 1979. Her parents, Maria Eriksson and Willem Karlsson, were part of an avant-garde theatre troupe called Scheherazade. I thought that was a Pokemon. Scheherazade tested the conventionality of society in general. From the age of 6 months until 7 years old, Robyn travelled with her parents across Europe as they performed, between 3 and 6 months out of the year. She would tell The Guardian, "My role models were my parents, who had an independent theatre group. I watched them perform, but also do their own bookkeeping. When I was 23 or 24, I connected the dots between that and the music business." Robyn told Much Music's Master T about her upbringing in 1997.
I've been very lucky in the sense that I've had a very nurturing and just grounded home, and my family's just very simple, and they're not, trying to be anything. They're not. They're just... I grew up in a theater family, so acting and singing and playing music was very natural from the beginning. It was just all in my environment all the time. So everybody that I know and most of my friends, they're just used to having those kind of people around them. So I've never had friends that look up to me because I became famous or blah, blah, blah. So that's good. So I kept my feet on the ground, have a good family, a good management, people that I care for and they care for me.
From a young age, Robyn showed an interest in music, listening to classic American soul, Jimi Hendrix and David Bowie from her parents' collection. Sadly, Robyn's parents divorced when she was 11, which inspired her to write her first ever song, In My Heart. Oh, unlike most 11-year-olds, the song would kickstart her music career.
You started singing at what, age 10 was it?
I was always singing.
You were always singing?
Always singing, but I started to write when I was 11.
Okay.
So that's when it got more serious to me.
More serious?
Yeah.
Why did you start singing? Was it just
It was just something I did. Something I just loved to do. It made me happy. It still makes me happy every time I sing.
Happy? So you don't consider it a job right now?
No, it's not a job. It's not, this to me is something bigger than just a job and being a part of a record business or, a record label. It's not about that. It's not about fame or money. It's about completing yourself and, doing what you're supposed to do.
Fantastic.
That you're meant to do.
That's what it should be.
Robyn was quick to get into showbiz, providing voiceovers for cartoons and getting small acting gigs. But it was music that would become her passion and profession. Robyn performed the song on a Swedish kids show called Sångdag Soppetoise. That same year, she was invited to sing You Can Always Be Number One, the theme song for a Swedish sports television show called Lilla Sportspegeln, which goes a little something like this. At the age of 13, though, was when Robyn would get her big break. One day at school, the Swedish singer Meha from a group called Legacy of Sound made an appearance for a school assembly. Afterwards, Robyn went up to her and began singing In My Heart. Meha was so impressed by what she heard from the young voice that she arranged a meeting with Robyn's parents, which led to a record deal with Sweden's Ricochet Records, an affiliate of BMG. Switching the spelling of her name from Robyn with an I to Robyn with a Y, I can relate. She released her debut single, You've Got That Something, in 1995. While it would reach the top 40 in Sweden, the song wasn't a hit. Luckily for Robyn, her next single, Do You Really Want Me? Show Respect, was in Scandinavia. The song reached number 2 in Sweden and went top 20 in Denmark, Iceland, Norway, and Sweden. Not bad for a 16-year-old, but much bigger things were yet to come. Robyn released her debut album, Robyn Is Here, in October 1995. At first, it was only available in Sweden, Japan, and parts of Asia and Latin America. The album would go double platinum in Sweden and immediately showcase Robyn as one of the country's bright young stars. Unlike a lot of singers her age, Robyn co-wrote all of the songs on the album and recorded a few tracks with producer Christian Falk, who would go on to become one of her regular collaborators for years to come. One other producer she worked with was a pre-fame Max Martin, who at the time was also set to work with an up-and-coming boy band by the name of Backstreet Boys. But first, he would produce 2 songs for Robyn, Do You Know What It Takes and Show Me Love. Robyn Is Here was released through RCA Sony in North America on June 24th, 1997, and almost overnight, Robyn became one of the hottest young stars in music. The album would go platinum in the US and double platinum in Canada. Both the Max Martin-produced singles Do You Know What It Takes and Show Me Love reached number 7 on the Billboard Hot 100 and number 2 on the Canadian singles chart. She would tell Much Music,
I didn't understand how successful the album actually was until I came here now the second time. And I'm really amazed. I'm really happy over, how people are really welcoming me, really warm feelings and good attitude. So I'm really happy to be here.
All right, cool. While there was some confusion between Robyn and dance artist Robyn S., both having hits called Show Me Love, Robyn found her music charting across a number of genres, pop, dance, and R&B, allowing her to represent a new style of crossover music she was at the forefront of in Sweden.
Because where I come from is a different generation, is a whole new era of music, and also of the people that live in Stockholm, for example. We have a lot of immigrants, a lot of people from Africa. Yep. So I have friends from all over, and how I grew up is totally different from, and the music I listen to is totally different from Ace of Base and ABBA and Roxette, everything that people have seen coming out from Sweden lately. So I think there's going to be a lot of new music styles coming out from Stockholm. Definitely.
Fantastic.
And, that's where I come from.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't really understand that. But there's a whole new R&B and hip-hop kind of thing going on in Sweden right now.
Robyn spent the better part of 1997 traveling all over the world, though she did turn down an invitation to open for Backstreet Boys on their tour, feeling it was too much of an artistic compromise. She did, however, take home the Billboard Music Award for Best New Artist Clip Dance for Do You Know What It Takes? And her song Show Me Love was used as the English title for director Lucas Moodysson's teenage romantic dramedy Fucking All Mall. The song was also featured in the film's closing credits. Everything seemed to be going right for Robyn, but she would soon find out that the music industry was ready to challenge the kind of artist she wanted to be. Between the release of her debut and sophomore albums, Robyn had an abortion. Instead of hiding it, she decided to write about the experience for her next album, My Truth, specifically on the songs Giving You Back and 88 Days. In the album's liner notes, she wrote, "Every song is about something I've been through that I think is important to talk about. I've tried to turn these experiences into inspiring songs about my life." In an interview with Swedish men's magazine Cafe, Robyn revealed the abortion, admitting, "I had no right to take a life, but I had the opportunity to choose, so I did it and felt awful." Oddly enough, when Billboard reported on the album in its June 19th issue, it claimed Robyn had suffered a miscarriage. The R&B heavy album was released in Sweden on May 17th, 1999, and went on to go platinum in her home country. Despite positive reviews by critics, when it came time to release it elsewhere, Robyn hit a wall. Her American label RCA refused to release the album, giving Robyn the choice to either re-record the songs removing any reference to her termination or get dropped. So Robyn walked away from her record deal. Years later, Robyn would tell the New York Times, "You can't really talk about stuff like that in America, or you couldn't at the time, not if you were an 18-year-old pop star." To this day, My Truth has not received an official release outside of Europe. Disillusioned by her label BMG, Robyn left and signed with Jive, hoping to get a fresh new start, only to learn that BMG would soon take over Jive as she was working on her third album. Robyn would tell Much More Music's Matt Wells about her label woes.
Of course, I felt like I had done a great album, and I felt like I was making a logical, a step in the right direction for me as an artist, and they didn't want to support that. But at the same time, they didn't want to let me go, so I was stuck in this contract for years, and I spent a lot of money and a lot of time getting out of that contract, and then eventually signed with Jive Records, and I tried to make an album where I was pleasing everyone, like writing good songs and doing what I wanted to do, but still it was produced and especially marketed in a very major record company kind of way. And that's really like around the time when I felt like I was heading in the wrong direction. And also the whole industry was changing. People were fired, new people came in that didn't really know anything about me as an artist. And Jive was being bought by BMG, which was my first label, so I was back at BMG, and it was just a big mess, and I just felt like I'm in the wrong place.
Robyn released her third album, Don't Stop the Music, on October 30th, 2002. Again, the album would only see a release in Sweden, where it was a success going platinum with 2 top 10 hits, and Japan the following year. It wouldn't be until 2019 where the rest of the world would get to hear Don't Stop the Music. Distraught over the pressure she felt to sound more like Britney Spears or Christina Aguilera, Robyn purchased her contract from BMG and became an independent artist.
I think, again, it wasn't a conscious decision. It was just something I felt like I had to do to keep my integrity and to feel good about myself. I went back to Sweden and I kept recording albums and releasing them. But of course, they sounded different than the first one. And my record label at the time thought I was just crazy for not doing what all these other girls were doing then, and Backstreet Boys and NSYNC and all that, because they were having so much success. And of course, they wanted me to do that, you know?
Right.
Which I understand. It's not weird. That's their job, to be a record company and to sell albums. But for me, it was about something else. It was about like a more long-term perspective.
In 2003, Robyn was sent an album called Deep Cuts by a Swedish duo named The Knife. She loved their dark yet melodic electronic sound and collaborated with them on a song called Who's That Girl? Her label didn't get it and refused to release it, so Robyn walked. She would tell the New York Times, "I made this music that I really love, and it's something different than I've done before. And you don't like it? Like, how are we going to work together? It's impossible." After years of butting heads with record labels and fighting for artistic control, Robyn was finally able to take her career by the reins. She began by starting her own record label called Konnichiwa Records, which allowed her to become her own boss and call her own shots.
I mean, I'm right where I want to be, and I don't think I would have been ready to do this before either.
Right.
You know? I see those first 3 albums as my school, my way of getting to know the industry, but also myself. And without them, I wouldn't know what I know now, and I don't feel like I have to distance myself from any part of my career,
Right.
or have everyone know who I am either, you know?
When it came to renaming her new record label, Robyn lifted the word Konnichiwa from a 2004 sketch that aired on Chappelle's Show featuring Wu-Tang Clan's Jizza and RZA.
Konnichiwa, bitches. Folks, thanks for joining us on this incredible night. Our coverage ends here, but be sure to catch the rest on our website. Congratulations to all of the races, and Konnichiwa, bitches.
She told Much More Music's Matt Wells that the label was a way of her releasing her own music without anyone interfering with her vision.
Well, Konnichiwa Records was started in 2005. It was started out of my kitchen. It was me and 3 other people who I worked with earlier in the Swedish music industry that I really liked and that I wanted to work with again. And I recorded this album and we released it together there. And, you know, around that time, I had really gotten rid of all the ideas of having an international career again. I just wanted to make this album and release it and do things on my own terms. And Konnichiwa Records was started so I could do that.
For her album, Robyn wanted to make music that fell in between the commercial music she was known for early in her career and the far less commercial music she listened to that didn't reach many people. Now in charge, she chose who to work with, bringing in producers such as the Teddy Bears and The Knife. She called the album Robyn as a clean slate to reboot her career. Mixing pop, dance, electro, and hip-hop, Robyn expanded her repertoire to fit her own tastes. She would tell Blues and Soul magazine that for her, hip-hop played a big role in her songwriting. I think the biggest lyrical inspiration for this album was going back to when I was like 15 and on the subway listening to hip-hop back then, because I didn't know many people in Sweden who knew about rap. It was like my own music world, where the lyrics were very direct. So I tried to return to that age when you're so strong and self-confident, while acknowledging there's also a part of being a teenager when you're sometimes very insecure and feel very fragile. The album was released on April 27th, 2005, but only in Sweden and Norway. It would become Robyn's first album to top the Swedish charts and win Album of the Year at the Swedish Grammys. It spawned the hit Be Mine, but aside from music bloggers around the world taking an interest in her new music, the album stayed in Scandinavia. But then, a funny thing happened. Robyn was introduced to a producer named Clear Up, who was playing drums with the Teddy Bears. After a gig one night in Stockholm, he and his bandmates got into a street brawl with some paparazzi who had yelled obscenities at Robyn. After one guy bopped Clear Up in the nose, he began to bleed heavily and ran back to the venue where he and Robyn would first meet, with tissue hanging out of his bloodied nose. Shortly after, the two began working on a song together, inspired by disco legend Giorgio Moroder and ZZ Top's song Legs. That song would become With Every Heartbeat, which upon its release in January 2007 changed everything for Robyn. The song caught fire in the UK, where it would eventually land Robyn her first ever #1 on the singles chart. All of a sudden, there was renewed interest in her music outside of Sweden. Her self-titled album was repackaged and released through a licensing deal with Island Records in the UK, followed by Interscope in North America. New tracks were added, like With Every Heartbeat, as well as Dream On, another collaboration she recorded with producer Christian Falk, who'd previously worked on Robyn's first 2 albums. Suddenly, Robyn had re-emerged on people's radars. Her songs were reaching the top 10 on US dance charts, and she even received a Grammy nomination for Best Electronic Dance Album. Speaking with Exclaim, Robyn explained that although her music was now reaching more people, it wouldn't change anything about how she operated as an artist. All records are me, but this is the first record I've made all by myself, which is a big difference. So I've been able to kind of build something. I had a good start, and then I built on that. I was lucky enough to still have a very strong base in Sweden, and that enabled me to translate my career into something difficult and new for me. I don't need to release a record anywhere else to survive. I can just do it to feel good. Still, Robyn didn't shy away from returning to the mainstream pop world that first gave her a career. In 2007, she was asked to sing backing vocals for a Britney Spears song called Piece of Me. Much More Music's Matt Wells asked Robyn about her contribution.
I know. That's also one of those things, I didn't meet her or anything, we didn't really work together, but Claes Åhlund, who I write with and who is a part of the Teddy Bears and who I work with all the time, he wrote this song for her, and he asked me if I could demo it. So I just kind of did it as a favor for a friend, and they kept the backing vocals on there.
Robyn would end 2008 opening for Madonna on the European leg of her Sticky and Sweet tour, playing to her biggest audiences ever and preparing her for what would come next. By the end of 2009, Robyn's romance with MMA fighter Olof Inger was falling apart. The couple were engaged, but their relationship was coming to an end. At the time, she was in the studio with producer and close collaborator Claes Åhlund. The two began working on sad love songs, with a lot of inspiration coming from Robyn's rediscovery of dance club culture. And yet, it was while she went off on her own, fiddling with some ideas, that she came up with a chorus that wouldn't leave her. She decided to bring in Patrick Berger to help her bring it to life. At first, the song had an acoustic vibe, Berger would tell Billboard. In the beginning, it was more of a country song almost. It was very simple. It had like 3 chords. The process was meticulous, but soon it began to take shape, adding pounding dance beats and rippling synthesizers to help change its course. Robyn broke it down in a conversation with the Red Bull Music Academy.
And I think I'd been touring with the first album for a long time, and I had been marinating on this kind of language for a while, and Dancing on My Own kind of came out of that, I think. And so I had this idea that I brought with me to the studio with Patrik Berger, who I wrote Dancing on My Own with, and we started playing around with chords and synthesizers, and it all just kind of happened. I don't know how to explain it. It's close to magic sometimes when that hits you.
Robyn and Berger used a number of key tracks they loved as a mood board for the song, including Billy Idol's Dancing With Myself, Ultravox's Dancing With Tears in My Eyes, and various songs by Sylvester, Donna Summer, and Giorgio Moroder. The mix of melancholy lyrics with upbeat tempos in those songs provided a light bulb moment for what they were trying to create. In an interview with Pitchfork, Robyn explained, "I've been touring so much the last 3 years and spent a lot of time in clubs just watching people, and it's become impossible to not use that lyric, Dancing on My Own, because it's such a beautiful picture. People have so many expectations when they go out, so many wishes about what their night is going to be. If they're going to meet that person, have a fun time with their friends, have a good high, hear good music. People get drunk and turn into themselves in a way, and they go to experience some kind of emotion. But it's not always about fun. There's a destructive side to it. But I'm more into the empowerment of going out, because it's always been the place where I could be myself and get inspired. Even if I'm sad, dancing is a way to let stuff out." Combining her love for Prince songs, 80s rock ballads, and queer electronica, the two came up with Dancing on My Own, a title Robyn had been holding on to for some time. She would explain the importance of balancing emotions in her songs as a way to keep things interesting.
Well, I think I'm always going to be obsessed by that, contrast between happy and sad. And for me, Dancing on My Own is of course, a song about love, sickness, but it's also about, this girl, taking care of herself and making, letting her feelings off. She's quite dramatic. She's not a victim. She's going out there and facing her situation and stuff. So it's both, just like with Every Heartbeat, it's both.
Released on April 20th, 2010, Robyn's Dancing on My Own, like many of her singles before it, became a hit in Sweden, reaching #1 on the charts. Her growing fan base fell in love with it. Critics praised it, hailing it as a Europop masterpiece. But once again, the song didn't become the breakthrough commercial hit many people expected it to become. In many ways, though, it became something bigger. Dancing on My Own was the lead single for Robyn's 5th album, Body Talk, an album that at first was released in 3 parts and later combined as a compilation album. The music video helped spread the word, featuring Robyn dancing on her own and enacting the lyrics with a bunch of sweaty bodies in a club. Choreographer Maria Decida Wahlberg told Billboard, Robyn based her dance moves on the movements actress Rosie Perez made in Spike Lee's film Do the Right Thing. There was a lot of angry energy. She was like the spirit animal of the Body Talk album, and you can spot that in the video. Over the years, Dancing on My Own has never really left pop culture. The song has been adopted by the 2S LGBTQ+ community, which has made Robyn a gay icon not only for her support, but for the music she makes. Vice published an appreciation for the song under the title, Robyn's Dancing on My Own is still an undeniable queer banger. Robyn would explain her relationship to her gay fans in an interview with Frontiers magazine. I think the gay community just gets me. I'm very lucky to have that audience. It's a very loyal and dedicated audience. I think a big part of my audience is gay because I make dance music and club music, and that culture came out of gay culture, but also because having an understanding of outsider culture has always been in my music. The song has been featured on many TV shows, including Gossip Girl, Grey's Anatomy, and Orange is the New Black, but it had its biggest moment on television when it was used in a cathartic scene of the HBO series Girls, featuring Lena Dunham and Alison Williams. Dunham would tell BBC Newsbeat that hearing the song made the whole crew dance and cry off camera, adding, "You could feel the power and love that went into the song." When Dunham won a Golden Globe for her performance in 2013, Dancing on My Own was played as she walked up to accept it. Dancing on My Own also became a favourite amongst many of Robyn's peers. Carly Rae Jepsen, who knows a thing or two about making great pop music, is a massive Robyn fan, especially when it comes to Dancing on My Own. She told Pitchfork, "It's this little world that she's tapped into, and no one else can really do it. It's a fantastical place and empowering, and it makes you feel like tonight is the only night that ever was or ever will be." The song's been covered by big names like Kings of Leon and Kelly Clarkson, but it was British singer Callum Scott who made the song his own when he sang it during his audition for Britain's Got Talent. His performance of the song currently has more than 300 million views than Robyn's video and helped him get a record deal. His first single, a heart-wrenchingly stripped-down cover of Robyn's Dancing on My Own. Scott said he owes his career to Robyn. Of course, in true Robyn fashion, her version of Dancing on My Own, the original version, has hundreds of millions of fewer views on YouTube and almost 1 billion fewer streams on Spotify than Callum Scott's cover. But that's just become part of Robyn's story. She's the original. She's the trailblazer. She's the artist. And she's the one who gave us this perfect song. I'm Myles Galloway, and that was the story of Robyn's Dancing on My Own on Encore, with new episodes every Thursday.
Encore is an iHeartRadio Canada podcast. Subscribe to this podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts. Download the iHeartRadio app for more great podcasts just like these.